All right, back again. Going to do that recap of the tailored operational training meals that I was trying. So I was working with the state parks last summer. The housing that I was staying in had that box left over. I always wanted to try some of those MRE meals. I saw some of them on YouTube before, some of the videos of people trying them, and I thought it was fun. So I always wanted to try one of those MRE boxes, and then I just so happened to find one at the place that I was staying. One of the previous tenants left behind a box of ready-to-eat meals, and I've just been reviewing those for you guys while I've been transitioning my life. All right, so here's my overall thoughts on the box, a recap of the box, and there were a few other items in there I thought I would talk about and just give you my overall thoughts. So the first thing that I wanted to mention was when I found this box, it was covered in mouse droppings, but since everything was sealed, I figured it was quite sanitary, so you know, the food was edible. I didn't get sick. It maybe wasn't the freshest food, but it was still pretty good. I also wanted to point out that I think that might be the date on the box there. If that is the date on the box, then it seems as if they got this box in March of 2005. So if that is the date on the box, I don't know if that's considered the expiration date. I'm not sure. What I'm trying to express is everything in that box was probably technically expired, but it was also technically edible. So I'll just point that out. All right. There were a few other items in the box that I kind of just wanted to talk about because it was just kind of a few items that weren't really meals, but I thought I'd just talk about them because they were in the box anyway. I will point out there were only spoons in the box, so no other utensils, just spoons. And there were two different sorts of spoons. There was this brown spoon here, and then there were these white spoons with the napkins, and that was all they had. So you don't need any other utensils in the Army, you just need spoons. And since most of the food that I was eating was just, you know, straight out of a packet, I guess that makes sense. Anyway, I'm wondering if the brown spoons were meant for the drinks. I'm not sure. There were a few other items in there. They have these packets of just extra condiments, I guess. In this packet, there were a bunch of these in there. There's salt and pepper and sugar and some moist towelettes. So there were a bunch of these in there. There was also really similar, the coffee packets. They had the salt, the sugar, the pepper, salt, pepper, sugar, the instant coffee, and the creamer. I think there might also be a moist towelette in there as well. So those were kind of like the instant coffee kits, I guess, that they had. There were a few of these in there. The previous tenant had opened a few of them up. So instant coffee packets here. And then there was also this packet that had a few more items in there. There was the instant coffee, so it's kind of an instant coffee packet. It's a bit different. There's like, the packets are a bit different, but I can tell that there's the instant coffee, there's the sugar, there's the creamer. I am not sure if there's salt and pepper in this particular packet, but it's sort of a coffee kit with some extra items because there's also the Tabasco there, so I'm not sure exactly. There's the little mini Tabasco. Here, let me see if I can. There's like a mini Tabasco in there. There you go. I'm not sure what meal that was supposed to be for, but whoever had the box before I did must have eaten whatever meals, because I just had pasta meals. But there's some Tabasco in there. And then there's also these mints. There's like some mints in there. I think that that's either some sort of, it's either napkins or else some sort of tinder, because there's also matches in there. You can see that there's also matches in there. So I think the idea with this is if you're out on the battlefield, you get your, you get your fire going, you can cook some things over the heat, and you've got your matches, and I'm assuming that's some sort of tinder, but I'm not sure. It could just be napkins or something. Anyway, didn't want to open it up, just kind of wanted to keep the packet as it was. I just thought that was an interesting one because it had the little mini Tabasco in there with some other items. So that was also in there. Also, there was a bunch of these fresh packets. So keeping the things fresh. Also, I wanted to point out in the box there was also this bag of Skittles and some Tootsie Rolls. So also Skittles, taste the rainbow, right? And then some just Tootsie Rolls. Skittles and Tootsie Rolls. I don't know if that was included in the box or if whoever owned the box just kind of put those in there. But those were also in there. Didn't really try them just because, I don't know, I figured they were probably just extra items that the person threw into the box, but I imagine most people know what Skittles and Tootsie Rolls taste like. All right, so now I'm just going to give my overall thoughts of the box. I think that my favorite item in the box was the spaghetti with meat and sauce and crackers. The rest of the items were all right, I guess. Pretty good. You know, kind of dry. Like I said, this box might be, you know, many years expired, so maybe the food is better if you get a box that was, you know, just barely put together. But like I said, I'm not sure if that's the expiration date or the date that the box was created, or if it's just not even a date. I'm not sure, but if so, then those items are probably definitely expired, but still edible. I'll just kind of go over the items in the box. I saved the packaging of most of the items. The first two items I just kind of threw the packaging away. I wish I would have kept them, but I'll just give a recap now. There was the fig bar. So the first thing I tried was the fig bar, just because I thought it sounded good, and it did taste just like a fig bar. It was kind of dry, definitely not the best fig bar that I ever had. The breading on the fig bar was definitely the breading that they use in some of the other sweet bread items, but it was a pretty good fig bar. Just kind of dry, kind of crumbly, but it did definitely taste like a fig bar, just with the breading that they use in their breading items. Then after that, I tried their chocolate sports bar. That was actually a bit fresher, not so dry, just because it was kind of just like a chocolate coated, it was chocolate coated toasted oats. So it was one of those sports bars. It was just kind of a basic sports bar. It was pretty good. It was, like I said, a bit fresher. I'd say that the sports bars you get in the store were probably higher quality. That was just kind of like a cheap version. But it was pretty good. I'd say I preferred it to the fig bar. I think of kind of like the sweet snack food items that I tried in the box, I'd say that the sports bar was probably the best just because it tasted the freshest. So that's my thoughts on that item. The next item that I tried was this Sterling pound cake. And the Sterling pound cake, it was just, you know, a pound cake, just a little pound cake, just plain, you know, just a plain pound cake. It tasted just like the breading in the fig bar. It tasted just like that. So it was, you know, just a simple kind of sweet cake. I didn't really want to eat the entire thing. Just because it was kind of a bland flavor. That's the thing about whatever that breading is. It's kind of bland. It's like this kind of like bland, sweet sort of flavor. It's got a really distinct sort of flavor that is different than you get at the store with bread items there. It's sort of, I don't know, it's like a sweet sort of processed sort of bread flavor. I wouldn't say it's my favorite sort of bread flavor that I've ever had, but it's all right. I didn't actually want to eat the entire pound cake, but I did because I was hungry. Anyway, it's kind of just like this kind of sweet sort of, just sort of sweet bread flavor. It's just like this bland, sweet sort of bread. It had like fresh packets in there. It's kind of just got a processed flavor. I guess that's a way to describe it. It's just sort of like this sweet processed bread flavor is kind of what most of the breaded items tasted like. So after the pound cake, it was all right. A bit fresher than the fig bar. It did have a fresh packet in there. After that, though, I tried the cookies with pan-coated discs. I still have those cookies in here, actually, because I only had a bit of the one cookie here. I only had a bit of the one cookie. That's kind of what they looked like. It's the, you know, it's cookies with, you know, the candy bits. I did not even eat all of those cookies, just because those cookies do not taste very good. It just kind of tastes like this bland, sort of sweet cookie flavor. You can't even taste the pan-coated discs. You can barely taste the chocolate. And then the cookie, you know, the cookie base is just really dry, just not even that sweet. So I didn't even eat those cookies just because they weren't very good, and I just didn't even want to eat them because the cookie base just didn't taste very good. It was just kind of like a grainy, almost like sand or something. I don't know. Didn't taste very good, so I didn't even eat those cookies. Anyway, the next cookies that I tried were the oatmeal cookies. And the oatmeal cookies were much better. Those actually tasted like cookies. They were kind of just like dry. They were kind of just like a dry, crispy cookie. But it did taste like an oatmeal cookie, though. It was dry. It just kind of like, you know, just kind of a dry, crispy, kind of crunchy cookie. It had like some sort of cinnamon in there, oatmeal. It was just a really basic sort of oatmeal cookie, but compared to the other cookies, it was really good. So I ate those cookies because they actually tasted like cookies, and the texture was just sort of like kind of a dry, just sort of crisp texture. The pan-coated disc cookies were just kind of falling apart. The oatmeal cookies stayed intact. And they actually tasted like cookies. It just tasted kind of like a light cinnamon flavor with some oatmeal. So those cookies were actually good. I actually liked those cookies. So between the cookies, I would definitely choose the oatmeal cookies. Then after that, I had one of the actual meals. It said that there was supposed to be 12 meals in there, but there were only 3 meals in there when I got the box. So the other owner of the box must have eaten the rest of them. But I did try the meals that were in there. And the next item that I tried was the cheese tortellini in tomato sauce. And there was just a packet in there. It was just a packet. There wasn't really any instructions, really. They've got like this sort of informational, it's not exactly instructions. There are some instructions on there. Like it says to eat the pasta items with cracker or bread. But other than that, it just kind of is just telling you that you need food for energy, you know? So it's just kind of encouraging you to eat 3 meals a day to keep your strength up. But it's not that much for instructions. So I wasn't sure if I needed to heat it up or not. You probably could heat them up. What you probably could do is if you had, you know, some sort of cooking setup, you probably could empty the contents of the packet into like a pan, and you could probably cook the, you know, the pasta items, and they probably taste, you know, a bit better cooked. But I ate them just straight out of the packet because ready to eat meals, I didn't really have a way to cook them anyway. And I would say the cheese tortellini was okay. It just kind of tasted like cheap pasta. You couldn't really taste the cheese in the tortellini. It was just sort of, you know, kind of a bland pasta, you know, just a bland pasta. But it was all right. It was edible. I was nervous about whether it was, you know, too expired to eat, but it seems as if in the packets, those meals stay fairly fresh. I actually preferred the spaghetti with meat sauce. Now, this was my favorite item in the box. And once again, it's the same sort of information, not really instructions, but sort of. It says, you know, to eat the meals with cracker or bread. So what I did is I got 2 of these spaghetti with meat sauce meals. So I thought I would try one of them with the cracker and one of them with the snack bread. And that's what I did. So I tried the spaghetti and meat sauce with the cracker first, and I'd say that was my favorite meal in the box. So my favorite meal in the box was the spaghetti with meat sauce and the vegetable cracker. It was probably the meal that tasted most like a normal meal. I didn't heat that up either. Once again, I think that the pasta items or any of the meals in the box would probably be better if you heated them up. But the spaghetti with meat sauce was actually good. Just right outside of the packet. You didn't really need to heat it up. It tasted pretty good. The spaghetti with meat sauce definitely tasted fresher and had more flavor than the cheese tortellini, which just kind of tasted like bland, you know, pasta. So the cheese tortellini tasted like bland pasta. The spaghetti with meat sauce, with meat and sauce, tasted, had more flavor. So the vegetable crackers were also really good. Like, I mean, I guess you can't really get a cracker wrong, I guess, or kind of difficult too. So it tasted like a good cracker. There's some sort of like vegetable blend in there with some sort of like, you know, vegetable flavoring, and I think that did help. And then I tried the spaghetti with meat sauce and the sterling wheat snack bread. And the snack bread was really sweet. It did not taste like wheat bread. It did not taste like wheat bread. It just kind of tasted like the other breading items. It tasted almost exactly like the Sterling pound cake. And that also tasted like the fig bar. So it was the same bread is what I'm trying to say. The same bread in the wheat snack bread as the Sterling pound cake. And I guess Sterling wheat snack bread, Sterling pound cake, I guess the Sterling brand, whatever their breading mix is just kind of like this bland, sweet bread. And they just kind of make all of their breading items out of that, I guess. With the spaghetti with meat sauce, it did sort of cut into the sweetness of the snack bread. I was thinking, is that why they call it snack bread? Because it's kind of sweet. I guess you could just eat it by itself if you wanted to. But I will say the snack bread did taste a lot better with the spaghetti with meat and sauce. It definitely did. It was all right by itself, but the spaghetti with meat and sauce definitely cut into the sweetness. So whatever the Sterling mix of bread is, the processed bread is just the same bread that they use in, you know, all of these items. So then after that, I just kind of drank through the beverage items. I tried this beverage base powder in grape, and I'd say the grape base powder was pretty good. It just kind of tasted like grape Kool-Aid. I'd say I did prefer it to the other beverage base powder in the box. There was this orange beverage base powder. Whoever owned the box before I did left a bunch of the orange drink. Didn't really leave as much of the grape drink. There was only one packet of the grape drink, and there was a bunch of packets of the orange drink. So I guess they weren't drinking the orange drink. Good for them. It just tasted kind of like, just like a cheap citrus drink. I wouldn't say that it specifically tasted like orange. It just kind of had like a citrusy flavor. It was just kind of citrus powder. So I wouldn't even say that it tasted like orange Kool-Aid, really. It kind of just tasted like just a citrus drink. It wasn't specifically orange. It just kind of tasted like a citrus drink. I noticed that the grape powder had a bit more, I don't know, weight to it or something. Like there was more flavoring in the grape drink, and then the orange drink didn't have quite as much flavor, and it was just kind of like a citrus flavor. So preferred the grape drink just because it had a bit more flavor. All right. Then after that, I kind of took a break because I had a few other items in there, but they were hot drink items, so I needed boiling water to try the rest of the drinks. I needed a place with boiling water to try the rest of the drink, so I was just kind of holding off on that until I could try the warm beverages. And there were a few warm beverages in the box. I was showing the instant coffee kit earlier. That's with the Taster's Choice instant coffee. And that's just kind of like the coffee kits that they have in there. So you can make yourself a cup of instant coffee, and they've got everything you need in there. And as far as instant coffee goes, I think it was pretty good. It was just kind of a simple instant coffee. It was kind of sweet on its own. If you added sugar and creamer, I'd say it was pretty good. I wouldn't say that it improved the coffee experience that much. And it was actually pretty good just by itself. I think they must have some sort of sugar in just the instant coffee mix, because it was already a bit sweet even before I added the sugar and the creamer. So it was pretty good though. As far as instant coffee goes, I'd say pretty good for an instant coffee. The next items that I tried were the iced tea drink mix with natural lemon flavor, it says. So the instructions on the back here said that you could have the iced tea either hot or cold. So I made a version that was hot and a version that was cold. And I will say that I probably preferred the hot version of the iced tea because it was a bit more warming. It was a bit more soothing. It had a bit more of a cozy feel to it. The iced version of the iced tea tasted more like iced tea, like it tasted more like tea. I think because I couldn't taste as much of the sugar. It could have just been additional water, but the hot version tasted sweeter. I couldn't really taste the lemon flavor so much in either version of the drink, but I would say the hot version of the drink did have more of the lemon flavor than the iced version of the drink. The hot version just kind of tasted like a sweet tea drink. The lemon flavor wasn't that much of a lemon flavor. It was just kind of like sweet iced tea. It was just like a sweet tea. And you know, iced tea is just kind of like a sweet tea. So I guess if you've had iced tea, it's kind of similar. It just kind of tasted like, you know, just kind of a cheap, sweet tea. I would say that I did prefer the hot version though. It's just kind of a sweet tea. All right. So I tried that just because it said you could drink it hot or cold. So I held off on that until I could get some boiling water. And then the last item that I tried was the cocoa beverage powder. And I would say the hot cocoa tasted just like the instant hot cocoa you get at the store. You get those packets of the cheap hot cocoa, and that's just what it tasted like, where there's not like a lot of cocoa flavor, but it's a bit sweet and it's a bit cocoa. So kind of that watery sort of sweet flavor that you get with the cheap cocoa that you get at the store. And I'd say, you know, that's about the review on that. It was pretty good. So if you like the hot cocoa you get at the store, you'd probably like that. You know, it's kind of soothing and cozy and nice to get a cup of hot cocoa. And I think if you had any of those hot drinks on the battlefield, it would probably be, you know, soothing, comforting, kind of cozy in some way. So yeah, that's kind of my review of the drinks there. And I guess that's really all I have to say about the box. So, just trying to think if I have any other thoughts about the box. I was just kind of eating those items because I ran out of food and money while I was living out of my car, and I realized I had that box. And so then it really did become sort of a you know, battlegrounds, you know, just kind of my own version of a battlefield, you could say, fighting for a new life. So it seemed sort of fitting to have that box of meals while I'm fighting for a new life, a soldier, fighting for a new world and fighting for a new life. I will say, it says that you need 3 of those meals a day, and I'm not even sure if that would be enough food on the battleground. 1 of those meals a day was definitely not enough food. I can say that much. If you just ate 1 of those meals out of the packet, even with 1 of the snack items, is probably not going to be enough food. If you ate 3 of those meals in a day as suggested, it might be enough food. But I'm just not sure if it's quite enough food for soldiers. If you only eat 1 of those in a day, it's definitely not enough food. I can tell you that much. Anyway, once again, I think my favorite item in the box was the spaghetti with meat and sauce. With the vegetable cracker, that was the meal that felt more like a normal meal than the rest of the meals. It was the best of the meals that I had from the box. I actually was happy to eat the spaghetti and meat sauce, especially with the vegetable crackers. That actually tasted good. Of the beverage drinks, my favorite is probably, I'll say I probably liked the grape drink the best, but the warm iced tea was also really nice. So I'd say those were probably my favorite of the drink items. All right, so there you go. That was my tailored operational training meal box. A recap of all of the items in there, and then a few other items that, were in the box that I just wanted to talk about. Even though I think the box was technically expired, the contents of the box were still edible and pretty good. I would say most of the items were quite dry, but if you were out on the battlefield or starving in your car, then some technically expired food is better than no food at all. So, anyway, thank you for being there. Thank you for caring about me. There is your review of the tailored operational training meals. I am sort of sad that there's nothing left in that box to try, because I was having fun trying those items, even though I am, also fighting for my life. So, anyway, like, subscribe, share the video. Yeah, hopefully things can get better for me soon. I'm kind of transitioning my life into something else. Should be able to start working with the state parks again soon. I'm just sort of waiting out the next month or so. Just working and living from my car, though I am grateful for my nice friends who have been letting me stay at their place occasionally and use their house, and I appreciate that, because let me tell you, living out of your car, it's a difficult situation. Not having enough money for food, it's a difficult situation, and I'm just grateful that I could make the most of it, and that I had that box to try. It did sort of help during the worst of my homelessness, where I was starving and out of food. Yeah, let me tell you, there was a point where I was living off of the same bag of pretzels for 4 days in a row. Anyway, it's difficult to live out of your car. Anyway, thank you for being there. That's just kind of my thoughts. Stay tuned if you want to see more from me and, where I'm going next. I'll see about getting some more videos edited. But until then, once again, like, subscribe, share the video. donate when you want to and can, because I'm still fixing my life. And it does help. It really does. Thank you for being there. Thank you for caring. And I appreciate the good people in my life. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys again soon.